Hey folks, Dave here. I appreciate you stopping by and I hope everybody's well today. So we've got Mother's Day coming up and I wanted to make a gift and share the process with you folks and hopefully it'll be helpful. So we are going to make this and we're going to make everything from scratch. We're not going to download any vectors from the internet. So let's go over and grab a square. And we are going to just draw out a rectangle. Don't worry about the size. Click the selector tool. We'll resize everything as needed. So we're going over to the Shape Properties tab to change the corner radius. Now if you don't have this tab, just go up to Window, down to Shape Properties, and be sure it's checked. And with our rectangle selected, we can go to this corner radius and increase it until we get something we like. That is set on 25, so it looks pretty good. We'll use that. Now we're going to select it. We're going to go to Tools and down to 16 points distortion. I believe it's distortion. Deform. Okay, deform. And we're just going to pull these in a little bit and make it look a little more like a flower petal. And I think that's good enough. Okay, now with that, we're going to duplicate, Control D, and I'm just going to pull one out of the way. Because a lot of times I make stuff and y'all see me do it and I don't have copies and I have to back up and start over and all that, and we're trying to avoid that. Okay, I'm going to make it a little smaller. Then I'm going to grab a circle and just draw out a circle. All we need is a pivot point because we're going to use the circular array to turn this into a flower. And we just want to touch it. Like I always say, you can use your scroll wheel to scroll in and out, push down on it, and move your entire canvas around. We're just going to center this pretty close. And when you're using circular array, the last item you select becomes your pivot point. So we're going to select the petal, Shift, select the center, and then go to circular array. And this is what we get. So when you use the circular array, be sure your start point is 0 and your end is 360. That gives you a full circle. Now what you want, we have 7 petals now because that's what was in there the last time I used this. You can go up. You don't want these to cross, not in this instance. So 7 is about as good as we can go. Okay, we're going to click OK. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I want to make sure I don't get it behind my head. Excuse me. Now these, we want to be able to pull these out a little bit and give it a little more flowery look. So we're going to select and we are going to ungroup, and we can just go ahead and get this centerpiece out of here for now. We don't need it. We're going to pull this and we're going to weld it. So we're selecting everything. We're going to weld it together. Then we are going to ungroup. I guess I could have left the circle in there to pull it out with this piece here. But we don't need that. We don't need these. I'm just going to delete them. Hopefully I didn't select my other piece. No, there's a petal over there. So now we want to select all of this and we want to go back to Tools, Deform, 16 points. Now we can start twisting this around a little bit to give it like whatever look you want it to have. Make it look more like a flower, because you know, flower's not perfect. So you can make it look however you would like. I think we'll go with that. Mash that one down a little bit. This is a fun feature to play with, but we have a flower now. Okay, so we're going to click the selector tool, and there's our flower. Excuse me. I guess it's allergies today. So now we want to get a circle, and we will draw it back in here. This is just going to be to give the center some color. I'm going to pull that out of the way until we select this, go over to offset. We want to offset it a little bit. I've got 0.5 round and outward, and it'll just give it a little edge to it. I'm going to scroll in close. Now you can select this entire piece and do your engrave, but I have found situations where that don't work, because when you use your preview, you want it to look like this. So if it does not look like that, and you get something that's solid, I'm going to Control Z and take this back. You can scroll in really close, select one, Shift, select the other, and then select your engrave, and then you'll be okay. And then we want to group that together. Now we will do the same thing to our centerpiece. Over to the offset, and we will see, now there's a perfect example. It's offset, but once you offset, the piece that's selected is your original, so that's why it done that. So we're going to Control Z, select them together. Okay, now we've got what we want right there. Okay, so that will go in the center just to make it more flowery looking. I have a sample up here that I'm checking off. So the first time I was practicing with it, it took a pretty long time to do too. But we're going to get there. This is we're going to put flowers in a mason jar, and it's going to look good. So now we want to make some little pieces here on a couple of these to make it look like the flower leaf is bent. So we're just going to grab the pencil tool. We're just going to draw out a small line, and then left click, right click, and it'll let go of that. Click the selector tool. I know the flower's behind my face, but we're going to focus on this line. So select the line, then go over to the offset tool, and we're going to let the line get offset. We're going to pull our original out and just delete it. Now we can duplicate this. I will put about 3 of these in here just to give it a little whatever, class, or I don't know, make it look more like a flower. I seen some that look like this. That's why I'm doing this. But you do it however you would like to do it. Whatever makes you happy, do that. And we could have used the node tool and bent some of these. Uh-oh. Control Z. And there we go. We'll call that good. Alright, so now it has a little more class to it. Alright, so we're going to select everything and group it together. Then we will duplicate the entire thing, pull it out because we're going to make it smaller, and we're going to run some around the outer edge here. So duplicate again, and like in my practice run, there will be 4 of these. And that looks pretty good. So now we will group all of this together. And then we'll make a backdrop for it. So with it all grouped together, select everything and go over to the offset. You want outward. And what we're going to do is increase this offset distance until you see everything come together in the background. So just click upward until everything touches and you're happy with the result. Click OK. Your original is selected, so you can just grab it and pull it out. Then we can select the backdrop, turn it into a line so we can see what we're working with, and that's what you have. So we can put this in here. Now we've got it ready and we can resize it whenever we put it on our jar. So we'll pull it out of the way. We're not going to group it together because the backdrop we will weld into the jar, and when we do that, if everything is if it's grouped with the engrave, then it'll turn everything into an engrave, and we don't want that. Okay, so now let's make us a jar. We're going to grab a square, draw out another rectangle, and I'm going to make sure I don't put this behind my face. So for the jar, we're going to go a width of 76 millimeter and a height of 127. Alright, now we want to round these off again. So with your Shape Properties tab, we know we can round them off. I don't do this much, so here we go. Get to the right spot, and that's probably enough for a jar. That's 20. Okay, so while we have this, you want to duplicate it, pull one out, because we've got to put a top on that jar. And then we need to, so that will be the top. We'll need to duplicate that so we can put a line across the jar to make it look like it's got the threads on it for the lid. Okay, so we can pull this down and just kind of set it in there. Shift, select the jar, go up to vertical align and center. Then we can select that and go over to weld. Okay, now we got a jar. Now this piece, we'll make it a little smaller. Turn it to a engrave, and then it will go here just for looks. Okay, but again, we won't group it in there yet because we want to get our backdrop attached. So let's do that. Our backdrop is here. I'm going to make this smaller so we can see everything. So there's our backdrop. You want to be able to see the bend in the lid. So this little piece here, once we weld, we'll be able to take that out. So we're just going to set that there. And we're going to grab them both. Now this piece up here with the flowers is just sized according to the jar. So you can make it smaller or larger. We're not measuring. But if you do, put the flowers and your backdrop together, resize a little bit, and then move your flowers back out of the way. And that should work. Of course, you can center it up. You can select and then shift and select your jar. I missed it somehow. And then go to your vertical alignment, V-center, and if it needs centering, it will do that. Okay, so we're going to grab all of this. We are going to go over to weld. And there we go. It's grouped right now, but if we select it, we can ungroup it up top. You could also right click and ungroup it here. But that will allow us to free up that piece that we wanted to get rid of, and then we can just delete it. Now we've got all one piece. So we want the jar to look more like a jar, so we're going to make a opening on the top. So we're going to draw out a circle like so, and then we'll make it black so we can see it. I'm going to scroll in closer on that. Then we will go to the offset tool. We've got to take that back down to 0.5 or 1, whatever you like there. Excuse me. Dang, allergies are terrible here. Alright, we're going to select now, and we have our top. And you can group the two pieces for the lid here. But you want to get them sized up so it's just touching the edge right there. I mean, it wouldn't really hurt anything if it's not. It's just going to hit your laser bed instead of cutting what you want it to or engrave. So now, again, we won't group this in. You can squeeze that up a little bit. Make room for your piece here for the edge, the bottom lip of the jar. You can even squeeze that up a little bit. No two of these will ever come out the same. So, all right, now we need to put, we're going to make a stand for this. And when we get our flowers back in here, we are going to cut holes in the center of these flowers. And then if you have some fresh flowers in the yard, you can snip those off, pop them in there, and you've got a nice little gift for Mom. Okay, she deserves it. Alright, so I'm going to pull this out of the way. And since we're making this so you can put some fresh flowers in it, We want to make the base large enough that it'll hold up. So we're going to grab a square, draw out a rectangle, and we're just going to do something about 1.5 times the width of the jar, something close to that. And the height, you just, whatever you like, do that. I don't know what it'll take to hold this up, so you may have to work with that and do some trial and error. But again, we're going to go over to the Shape Properties tab, and we are going to round off those corners to make it look a little more fancy. We're going to duplicate this, pull it out, go up to Arrange, and we are going to rotate it 90 degrees. Select it, Shift, select the other one. We're going to hit a bullseye on it. Come back, select on both, and then go over to Weld. Now, with two objects, it could be a union. You don't have to use Weld unless you have more than 2 objects. So we could go up to Tools, down to the Boolean Assistant, and it is on another screen. I got a lot of screens over here. We're getting there. And then we have the Assistant that will help you see what's going to happen. That's a union, but if you were testing something else and you wanted to know what it would look like, this would help you to do it. So we're going to go with union, click OK, and I do have a video on that, and I'll put a link down in the description. Okay, so now we want to just put a tab on the jar and a slot on the stand. So let's go over and grab a square again. Now this will be pretty tiny. We'll just go with a width of 20. And we are using 3mm basswood plywood. So we'll go 3mm. We got to get closer so we can see. We will get a duplicate of that. Well, I tried to anyway. Okay. Sometimes things don't work right, but you know, it's me. It's certainly not Lightburn. Okay, so we want to pull this up to the jar, and you can push down the Alt key. We're going to get in close. Push the Alt key. Grab the top. You can see the cursor change when you get to the top of the tab. Grab it, and you'll see your guidelines pop up, and you can just snap it to the bottom of the jar. And there is a video on that as well, using the alignment tools. I will drop that down in the description as well. Now, what I like to do here, this would weld, but if you know that the portion below is the 3mm you want on the tab, but if you select and then just pull that up into the jar or whatever you're working on, then you can select, weld, and you know you're right where you need to be. But don't resize after you put your tabs and slots. Don't resize after that, because it'll distort the tabs and slots. Okay, so we need to center this one, and always select the item you want to move during the centering. So we select the slot, Shift, select our stand, hit the bullseye, select it, and hit weld. And there we go. So now we can start putting this together. And we'll write something on it. For Mom. And I intended to grab one of these flowers to put on the jar. So when you make yours, if you want a flower or something on the jar, be sure to grab it before you start grouping and welding and everything else. So we're not going to have that on the jar. But we are going to have this lid opening, and we are going to drag this on out so it looks more natural. As natural as a jar can look. Okay, that looks alright. You can make yours prettier. We just wanted to go through the steps here. And we will type flowers for Mom. That's what we'll do. Since I didn't put the flower on there. And I am going to use Academy Engraved because it does a really good job without having to do a fill. You can do it with a line, and it does a really good job. And I had a viewer ask me where I got that font from, and I couldn't remember. I believe it came with Microsoft Office 2007. And I don't remember downloading it anywhere, but I did find a location that had it for free, for download. But I could not verify the licensing for it. So I'll drop a link to it in the description, and you can check it out. But before you use it for a commercial purpose, be sure to check out the licensing on that site. It was a site I had never used before, so check it out good. Okay, so we're using Academy, and we're going to type out flowers. For I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 M's in Mom. Okay, now you put whatever you would like on it. You can make yours prettier. And we're going to center that. Well, we're not going to center, we're going to align, because if you center, the shape of it would throw it off. And we're going to make this a line here. And it'll look more like an engrave. This will leave it the way we have it. And my brain is skipping because I'm thinking. It happens like that sometime. Okay, folks, I think now we can take this. No, we can't. I got to put some holes in these flowers. So I'm just going to draw out a circle. Hit the selector tool. And I'm just making a hole to cut fresh flowers if you want to, and put in there. Of course, we got to make this one smaller. It may be the whole centerpiece. But you get what I'm shooting for here. And I really hope it's helpful. I know I ramble a little bit, but it's really because I'm trying to think this through while I'm doing it and share with you folks, and I hope it's helpful. Okay, well, we will jump into the laser after I move these because you always want to engrave before you cut. And we will jump in the laser now, get set up with 3.5 or 3mm basswood plywood. Okay folks, be right back. Okay, I believe we're ready. I will send the code on over. We'll cut this out, see what it looks like. Okay folks, well, let me clean this up a little bit and maybe pick some flowers and we'll see what this looks like. Be right back. So here's our finished project. It turned out pretty good, but you folks can use your imagination and make it look even better. So I'll drop links to the videos that I mentioned down in the description, along with a link to how to create an art library so you can save this whole piece as a vector and be able to pull it up whenever you like. I really appreciate you folks taking time to watch. It does help the channel grow. And the comments not only help me to learn, but they help other viewers to learn. So I really appreciate it. Just check back often for new videos. You folks take care, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.